Anthony Graves, Michael Blair, Alfred Brown. These are the names of those that have been wrongfully convicted, sentenced to death row, and later exonerated. Not all wrongful convictions are overturned, though, putting people that are not guilty to death. I spoke with Allison Clayton, Deputy Director of the Innocence Project and Adjunct Professor of the Innocence Clinic at the Texas Tech School of Law, to get her expert opinion on the death penalty.
So, my thoughts have evolved over time, right? I used to be in support of it, like completely in support of it. Whenever I was younger, I was in support of it. And then once I became like a lawyer and I really started understanding how bad our criminal justice system is and, like living it in everyday life, then I got to thinking, on a practical level, we should never ever do that just because we cannot be sure that we're not executing innocent people. The risk is just far too great, And then, but even then on a philosophical level, I was like, if it were like philosophically speaking, if we can 100% prove without, any kind of a shadow of a doubt, we can absolutely prove this man did this horrible, awful, terrible thing, then we should use it then. But that, as just a practical matter, we have to outlaw because we can never really say that. Like the times that we can say that are so incredibly low that we can't really justify continue using it. But philosophically, sure, I still get it.
Emotions can run high when discussing the death of another human being. Macy Haight, a Tri Delta at Texas Tech University, says her views on death row are a reflection of her religious preferences.
Is that I'm completely against it due to religious reasons. I don't think other people, or especially the government, have any say in ending another person's life, because I believe that God can forgive even if you kill 100 people. I think he can forgive you for that and still has a plan for your life, and that another person shouldn't step in and end God's plan for your life.
Clayton further explains what happens when a person does die at the hands of the state.
And I say murder, because that really is what it is. Whenever someone's executed, the cause of death on their death certificate is homicide. Because they were forcibly murdered by the state.
According to deathpenaltyinfo.org, currently in Texas, there are 232 prisoners on death row. 99 of these prisoners are Black, 66 are Latino, and 62 are white. Historically, there have only been 13 exonerations in Texas. Only 3 of these exonerations were in favor of a Black prisoner. This is only 23% of the total exoneration list in the state of Texas. Clayton shared that she has been a witness to racism in the courtroom multiple times, one of which was a case in Lubbock.
Cases right now, I have a case out of Lubbock right now. This is not an Innocence Project of Texas case. But there's a case in Lubbock right now where the guy, who's a successful Black business owner in town, got 90 years for selling synthetic weed. And this is after he had the weed tested by 2 or 3 different DEA-approved labs. And they were like, there's nothing in here that's illegal in the state of Texas. And so he's like, great, well, I can sell it at my smoke shops. So he started selling it, gets arrested for it, and gets 90 years in prison for doing.
Asked Andrea Jackson, Vice President of the Texas Tech chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists, her thoughts on the justice system. Here's what she had to say.
I feel like there are more people of color in jail than there are people that are non-white. And I think that's really unfortunate. A lot of it is for what you would call non-violent drug charges, which in this day and age with the legalization of marijuana, I think it's unfair that all of those people are still in jail to this day. Now, granted, there's a part where you're like, okay, well, if it's illegal, don't do it. But at the same time, as we're seeing a change in our legal system in America, I think that there should be a change to the criminal justice system in America. I'm not just saying, free all of them, which, that wouldn't work to the best of our abilities. But I think it needs to be reestablished. I think somebody needs to really sit down and say, hey, why are, more of our people of color rather than equal or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying it should be equal, okay, make sure we get some more white people in here. That's definitely not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that I feel like sometimes minority and low-income places are targeted more than others, and it's really unfortunate because there are some people who I do believe shouldn't be in jail that are in jail today.
Texas state law mandates a jury decides the sentence in a criminal case. This gives the jury of everyday citizens the power to sentence someone to the death penalty. Jackson gave her thoughts on the jury system.
I think they probably shouldn't do jury just for something that serious because, one, you're taking people's time, and do they get paid for that? You know, they're going to miss out on work. They're going to miss out on their children. You know, do they have somebody to watch their children? They might be trying to just speed up this process, and that's just, hey, I'm trying to get back to my regular life. Forget this guy who probably killed somebody. Let me go ahead and convict him because I want to go back home. It's easy to do that. If they have no commitment or no, they're not tied down to this trial monetarily, you know, there's no kind of win or lose for them, they're not really going to care about the aspects, you know. If somebody who's you take a dentist out, he's not going to miss out on a $100,000 day or days, you know, to talk on a jury that has nothing to do with him. So I think that we could do better by not necessarily taking out the jury, but being better about that selection process, and then understanding how people who do jury duty can affect it, just because, you know, we are interrupting everyday lives.
Jackson also gave her thoughts on preventing the wrongful convictions that lead to the death of people that are not guilty.
If you tell me there was no DNA being able to, get collected, if you tell me DNA was not able to get collected from those samples of victims, as a jury member, I probably wouldn't be a great one, because I'd be like, where's my evidence? I need DNA proof. I'm not sure how DNA played a factor in those 13, but I'm sure it probably had something to do with it, since they were found after, whatever certain time that they were not guilty. Yeah, I think DNA would play a factor for me. I would want to know more about those individual 13 cases and how they came to find not guilty. Was it fake testimonies? Was it a testimony that they decide not to pursue? Are there different factors that were skipped? And again, to answer your question, why are they able to skip those steps? Why are they able to skip, oh, this woman saw this man and went out on a date with him that night at that time? Well, then how is he even, considered to be a suspect? And let's not take shortcuts. I think that's the number one thing I would want for the investigators and all those people who are, with that decision process, rather, to take pride in, is not to take shortcuts. People do want justice for the individual. They do want, that individual not to have gone down in vain, but I also don't want to take another life in the process of that. Who knows how many people could have been saved that have already been put to death,
Allison Clayton discussed what she thinks would be a better option to lower the number of wrongful convictions.
And I don't know that we have a really easy answer for that, because you can't always trust the judges. A lot of times the judges are just elected prosecutors, and they have that mindset of, the law and order kind of mindset of lock them up and throw away the key, or, just go and execute them. So you can't always trust your judges, and that's just so sad, but it's true. And the thing is they're elected officials in Texas, and so that's kind of their platform. That's what the people want them to be. But it's just because they're naive. They don't understand, the realities of our criminal justice system, or they just don't care. So then, you think about, now this is something I've turned over in my mind quite a bit, which is, what about a jury of people, but they're kind of like professional jurors? And that would solve some problems, right? There was a case over the summer down in Gaines County where you ended up getting 3 innocent people wrongly convicted of 2 murders. You got 6 wrongful convictions. Fortunately, they're not death penalty convictions, because it's just life without the possibility of parole. But, the jury, we went back and we talked to the jury after that verdict came out, and the jury just didn't understand what the jury centered heavily on people who were very bad into heroin. And the jury just didn't understand what a person on heroin looks like, right? They were like, well, there's no way that a person on heroin can be like normal and functioning and he would look like that.
The state of Texas has seen a total of 1,315 executions, making it the state with the second highest number. Nationally, 160 people have been released from death row following evidence of their innocence. As we heard from lawyer Allison Clayton, race does play a factor in some cases where the defendant is of color. Of the Texas exonerees are Anthony Graves, Michael Blair, and Alfred Brown. What is the state of Texas doing to reduce the number of innocent men and women on death row? What are you doing to reduce the racism seen in our justice system?